Welcome, ladies and gents. So, we are talking about Rambo Last Blood. I haven't actually had a chance to see this yet. I will be watching Ad Astra today and reviewing that. You know that we've talked about what Ad Astra is being reviewed as already on the channel. If you didn't see it, someone claimed it was toxic masculinity in space. Linked up here. You can go check that out. Today, we're talking about Rambo 5 because I think as an industry, we're so pent up with this just total political bias that we will now bomb a movie if it doesn't align with what you believe in. And they're not actually reviewing the movie anymore. So what they review is the agendas behind the movie, the political messages behind the movie. And I think it's an interesting discussion because I think that's bad. I don't think we should be doing that. I think if it's overly ham-fisted, then that interrupts the story and the narrative. But if it's not, then you shouldn't really negate the positives of the movie just because of your political bias. It's like, for instance, right, Netflix's Dark Crystal prequel. Now, I said it was a masterpiece, an out-and-out masterpiece. And I said there was, as far as I was concerned anyway, no agenda. And the reason why I said that is because it aligned with everything that was established some 30, 40 odd years ago with the original Jim Henson movie. Now, a lot of people would reply to me in the comments and say, no, because Deet, one of the Gelflings, has two dads. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are really that against homosexual coupling that a throwaway line, quite literally, my two dads, and then they just shuffle on, is offensive to you, so much so that you think Netflix's Dark Crystal prequel is pushing a massive agenda, then you are equally as bad as these people right here. It did not impact it. None of it impacts it. And I think it's really important. You know, we are reviewing these movies through a lens at the moment, and it's a shame. It's an absolute shame. So I wanted to get into this because I think it's important. I mean, this headline alone, I've got a few articles here as well, but I think this headline alone sums it up. Rambo 5 hammered at Rotten Tomatoes, White Trump movie. Now, I think something that we need to bear in mind when we look at Rambo as a franchise is every single movie has a take on some form of current events. I think it was, what was it, Rambo 3? I'm fairly certain it's Rambo 3 when it gets absolutely bombastic and just absolutely crazy. And he's in the Middle East fighting Russians, but he's working alongside, effectively, the Taliban. Again, you know, these are current events because at the time, things were happening to that effect. Now, it doesn't mean that they get it right every single time. Of course not. But it's in line with the franchise. And Rambo isn't about sending a message of any form. It's Rambo. You know? The first one, Vietnam. Second one, going back to Vietnam. And then the third one, like I say, going to the Middle East. Like, it's... Where's the message, really? It started off as sort of a message, you know, with PTSD. But then progressed into a bombastic action movie. Franchise. So... let's get into it, right? The reviewers that make up Rotten Tomatoes continue to get more laughable and laughable. Note, they won't approve of this person for some reason. I've never even tried, I don't care. Now, Rambo Last Blood is currently getting hammered with negative reviews as they offer it's for white people and Trump fans. If you start your review or you mention in your review that it's for white people, then, again... You're not reviewing the movie. It also shows some form of racial prejudice that you have. You know? Genuinely. Now, just to sum it up, right? Checking out the teasers for other reviews listed on Rotten Tomatoes, we see more of the same as the reviewers don't like and offer. This is, to put it plainly, one nutty movie to begin with. There is no evident reason for it to exist. It's an action thriller in a world where we don't have many action films anymore. This is great counter-programming, just from a business perspective. It's great. Rambo's one-man war is an ugly brand of extrajudicial fantasy where nameless goons are trapped and slaughtered in gorily grotesque ways, one after the other. Sounds great. A massively enlarged prostate of a film. So basically, toxic masculinity. Rambo and his films have never been in the business of holding back, but it's unclear where, as entertainment, this calculated plunge into hate and rage really gets us these days. Because it's fun. There you go. Just like war games are fun. It's fun. In 2019's hypersensitive cultural environment... Stop right there! Your review is moot. You've started it with in 2019's hypersensitive cultural environment. There is negative connotations to something being hypersensitive. That's not a good place to be. So you're already admitting that the cultural environment currently is overly sensitive and shouldn't be that way, by the way. The depiction of murderous Mexican crime bosses and their cowering slaves encountering a literal white savior doesn't go down easy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, the other thing which I found interesting, if we go to... So, again, this is all to do with Rotten Tomatoes, but they've revealed a little bit more. So, The Guardian's a joke anyway. And at least it wasn't, was it, Mr. Rose on film, because he's a joker. This massively enlarged prostate of a film can only make you wince with its badly acted Garonto ultra-violence, its Trumpian fantasies of Mexican rapists and hilariously insecure US border, and its crass enthusiasm for revenge attacks undertaken by a still got-it senior dude, 73 years young, on behalf of a sweet teenager. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the award for Stupido of the Day. We have Stereotypes for a reason. Right? Now, I'm not saying that stereotypes are good, but they're there for a reason because they are represented in everyday life. Are there Mexican drug lords? Yes, there absolutely is. The Mexican cartel, ladies and gentlemen. So why shouldn't we depict them as bad people? We're not depicting all Mexicans as bad people, are we? Evidently not, because they're literally saying what they are. It's amazing how people have managed to just kind of draw parallels to the two. Right, so we're showing nasty... And that says more about them than anything else. Much more about them than actual Rambo, the movie. Right, so we've got Mexicans. Awesome. Okay, so we've got Mexicans in the movie. They're rapists, they're bad, blah, 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 blah. Ah, all Mexicans. They're telling that all Mexicans are like... What? Stop smoking crack, mate. The rap... but Gabriella drives over anyway, at which point she falls prey to a Trumpian array of... See, this, like... I'm not here to talk politics in terms of actual politics. But when you're just mouthing off about your own political bias, your very, very clear-cut political bias, so you don't like Trump, okay, fine. But it's not a Trumpian fantasy, is it? It's a male action thriller. Like, what? Honestly, I lose the will to live some days. If only Last Blood had more to say about that than beyond a jingoistic mishmash of dime store sentimentality and half-hearted vengeance. It shrugs into existence, bidding farewell to an action icon in the same grotesque terms that made him so problematic in the first place. So you don't even like him! He's so problematic! Fuck. IGN's the best. The impetus for the film's action comes from a plot that closely resembles Taken in both its setup, its older dad action fantasy, and its cultural insensitivity. It's not insensitivity when these people do actually exist. Stop hiding away from the fact that these people do exist in everyday life, because they do. There are Mexican drug lords. Oh my god! Shock horror! Does that mean all Mexicans are bad? No! A bunch of British people do have fucked up teeth. You only have to watch Jeremy Kyle to realise that. Does it mean all British people have effed up teeth? No, my teeth are alright. Like what? Seriously? Stereotypes exist because they actually exist. It's not a commentary on the entire culture, the entire place. It's a larger than life representation of a certain small demographic. But you can't handle it because of the, again, in your own words, the hypersensitive culture we live in. Ridiculous. I will review this film. I will review it absolutely fairly. You will not see political bias in any of my reviews. A lot of people say, you know, you go into movies with a massive negative slant on certain things here and there. I don't. If agendas being pushed in a movie comes above the narrative, it has to be mentioned. But that has nothing to do with reviewing and talking about political bias. I don't actually have a political bias. I don't care. You know, my political leaning is common sense, essentially. This is not common sense. This is nonsense. Nowhere in this have I read anything about actual shots, how the movie has been set up. You know, yes, you're talking a little bit about the story, but there looks to be some good cinematography here. The color grading on that looks good. So why aren't you talking about that from a technical perspective? Framing, scene setup, transitions. Why are we not talking about that? Because that, ladies and gentlemen, is actually a large core part of the film. No, you'd rather just mouth off about your political bias. You douche. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below in the comments. If you're new here, hit subscribe. Stay tuned for my Ad Astra review that will be coming out very, very soon. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I've been Mr. H. Take care.